All right, as we have a couple others jumping in here. So again, one other quick reminder, this webinar will be recorded, so we'll be able to share it with you um, at the end of the day or as soon as we get it processed. So we'll just go ahead and get started here since it is after 11. So I appreciate everyone taking time out of the day to join me. And we're going to talk about starting and growing your DTG business. So we'll just get started here. So here's a quick agenda on some of the topics that we will discuss today. So we'll talk a little bit about who I am, where I've been over the last 15 years in the apparel industry. We'll talk about the DTG market, some analysis there and the projected growth. Talk a little bit about building your business plan if you are brand new and just getting started. And then talk a little bit about identifying your customers, have some great marketing ideas that work. We'll go a quick overview of the DTG process from start to finish. Of course, choosing the right equipment, choosing the right partners. Talk a little bit about mastering your craft and the learning curve when getting started in the DTG business. And then we also, for everyone that attends today, we do have some great exclusive offers. So you'll definitely want to stick around and hear about those. And then we'll finish the day with some questions and answers. So jot down any questions you have, and when we get through the presentation, I'd be happy to answer all your questions for you. So a little bit about myself. Many of you may know me already if you've been looking at DTG for a while. So I've spent the better part of 15 years in the DTG industry. Prior to that, I come to this industry with a background in marketing and graphic communications. I actually started in the sign industry, working in some sign shops, working for some local graphics businesses, and years back moved to California, which is where I fell into DTG, and I've been here ever since. So a lot of experience working with DTG printers myself. So I've actually owned a couple different DTG printers over the last 15 years. So I've run the business. And then of course, I've been consulting new businesses in DTG as well as established and Fortune 500 businesses. So that's a little bit about myself. I know I always like to throw the photo in here. I had the chance a few years back to meet Mark Cuban from Shark Tank and got to show him, DTG technology. He was very interested in getting this technology actually for his basketball team down there in Dallas. So really cool experience to be able to chat with him and pick his brain about business. All right, so we'll jump right in here. So the DTG market, the global DTG market is valued at nearly $1 billion here in 2022. What's interesting about this number is I've put together presentations like this over the last decade, and it always surprises me when I start to dig into this part of the research. It just surprises me how large this number has become. So this industry has been growing exponentially, and it continues to do so. The expected growth, 8.3% compound annual growth rate. So this industry is growing, has been growing, and it's projected to grow at a really healthy rate here. So by 2032, so over the next decade, we're looking at $1.8 billion global DTG market, which is an incredible pie to get a slice of. So mainly what I'm trying to say, there is no shortage of demand for apparel, and direct-to-garment printing technology is well positioned to be able to take advantage and really fill a void that's been there even prior to this technology even coming on the scene. So the DTG market, the growing popularity of stylish, funky, and colorful apparel is expected to drive a surge in demand for digital garment printing. So why is DTG growing so fast? So this is just a short list of some of the reasons. And kind of like I mentioned on the last slide, the need for some of the things that direct-to-garment printers can do has really always been there. I've worked with a lot of screen printers, and the challenge has always been, I have a customer that comes into the shop and they want 10 shirts and they're full color. Well, for the longest time prior to direct-to-garment printers, it's just not a job that was profitable. So this is why many of you, if you've done your research or you've been in the position to need to order t-shirts, typically you'll find t-shirt shops and they'll have minimum quantity orders. So they'll say, okay, yeah, we can do that job for you, but you need to order 30 of them. Or we can do that job for you, but you can use one color, two colors, or three colors. So again, going back to why DTG has grown and continues to grow at such a pace is because direct-to-garment printers take away some of those limitations with some of the older technology. So your ability to print full color garments, so essentially, a t-shirt with a one color graphic on it, and a t-shirt with 1,000 colors on it, with direct-to-garment printing, that will not change the cost of that print, which is a gigantic advantage in the marketplace. So full color, no minimum orders, of course. So because it's all digital, we're not worried about burning screens, and we're not worried about extensive labor time to set a job up. So there's no minimums. If a customer wants one t-shirt or they want 100 t-shirts, it's really not going to change your process, which allows you to go after a big segment of the market that a lot of the other technologies just cannot take advantage of. Of course, another piece to this puzzle is environmentally friendly inks. So unlike screen printing and some other processes, direct-to-garment printers use a water-based ink. So environmentally friendly. I have a lot of customers that leverage that in their marketing as well. Another big one is no artwork limitations. So in the past, if you have a really intricate, incredible design and you bring it to a print shop, they might say, okay, we need to, eliminate some colors, maybe eliminate some detail. With direct-to-garment printing, because it's inkjet, you can print high resolution artwork without having to degrade the artwork itself. Another reason, people want to shop local. So obviously there's a lot of massive apparel print shops, print houses, but you can get at your target market. You can get into your community and be the go-to shop, the go-to business for all your local businesses looking for t-shirts. Of course, if you've received a t-shirt sample or you've had a chance to see a printed shirt from a direct-to-garment printer, the quality is amazing. Unlike a vinyl or a transfer that has a little heavier hand to it, direct-to-garment printing has a nice soft hand to it, and if printed and cured properly, it'll never crack or peel like some of the lower cost options to print t-shirts. The other thing I put on this list is market adoption. So in the early days of DTG, back in 2007, 2008, really many, if not all, consumers really didn't understand or didn't know that this technology existed. And I still talk to people, every day that have never heard of this technology, being that it is fairly new. But as customers and as college kids and really everyone that could be your customer base, as they start to see companies like Custom Ink, Zazzle, Cafe Press, some of these large companies that are spending good marketing dollars on promoting this technology. As that happens, the customer base is educated. And so maybe 10 years ago, when the print shop told them it's a minimum order of 25 and they can only have two colors, they just accepted that that's the only way. But now customers and consumers are realizing that they don't have to order 25 shirts if they need five. And they're actually out there seeking out businesses that can achieve that. So um, in recap, the DTG market has grown and is projected to continue to grow. So it's still fairly early on in terms of how long this technology has really been on the market. So the next slide here, the next place, if you're brand new and you're joining this webinar, maybe you've been researching for a couple years, maybe you've been researching since last night, wherever you are in this stage, the first place to start is to build a plan. So you can reach out. I'll have contact information. We have some great example business plans and editable business plans that you guys can take a look at. But the key here is you want to build a plan. So a couple questions that you're going to want to answer in this phase of getting started with the business is, who are your target customers? Who are you looking to help? Or who in your community has a challenge that you can be the solution for when it comes to apparel and textiles? The other things you want to answer for yourself is, are you looking to sell apparel locally, regionally, or globally? Of course, the internet and e-commerce platforms have really changed the landscape, whereas even early, 10, 15 years ago, you sold apparel, or maybe I should say 20 years ago. If you were an apparel shop, you were selling apparel to people in your community. I have customers now that, are selling to, living in a small town and selling apparel to multiple countries. So you want to find out where your sweet spot is, where your customers are. The other thing I think is important is to find a niche. And maybe that's why you're on this webinar today, because you've already kind of found this. But a lot of times I'll talk to people and they'll say, I just want to get into the t-shirt business. And that's a pretty broad brushstroke. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that. But if you can narrow down a niche and really ideally something that you love already, and you can jump in and you probably already have contacts, let's say it's the wedding industry. And I think I have a slide that talks a little bit more about this here in just a few minutes. But I think that's important as well. Another thing I think it's important to look at is, who are your competitors? So where are they succeeding? Where are they failing? Maybe secret shop some of the local t-shirt shops in your community and just get a feel for how they're running their business. You never know. I've had customers that wind up, partnering with local businesses. Maybe you got a local screen printer that doesn't do DTG. And if you jump into DTG, you can do all his DTG work. And when you get an order for 10,000 shirts, maybe you can contract to him. So definitely get a feel for who's in your market locally, with e-commerce, of course, globally. But get a feel for what they're doing right, and where maybe you can have an advantage and earn some of the business. Another question that you're going to want to answer is, do you want to start this business from your home, or do you want a brick and mortar store? Give me just 1 second. Apologize. So the exciting part about direct to garment business is you don't really need a brick and mortar store. So, a lot of customers will go the brick and mortar route. There's certainly an advantage to being in a great location. I have customers in tourist towns, on main streets in their local communities. So certainly there's a business model where the brick and mortar store makes a lot of sense. But in my experience, the beauty with the direct to garment printer and the fact that it's all water-based inks, you can run this business right out of a spare bedroom in your home. So instead of having to, outlay the funds and the capital to be in a brick and mortar location, the cost is relatively low when you start this business as a home-based business. The next thing you'll want to think about when you're building your plan is a marketing strategy. Now, thankfully, here in 2022, there are a bunch of incredible options that are free. Social media. We have a lot of customers that simply have a Facebook business page, Instagram. All the social media avenues are a great way to get your business name out into the marketplace in your local communities. Definitely check with your local chamber of commerce. I know I have another slide, I think, down the road here talking about fundraisers and charities. This is a great way to give back to the community while simultaneously getting your brand, in front of your potential customers. And then finally, you're going to want to research equipment, blank suppliers, and different partners in this industry that can help you succeed in your new direct-to-garment business. So potential customers, the apparel market is huge. So I always joke that everyone wears a t-shirt. And I think there was actually a study I read not that long ago that said the average American has 7 t-shirts, graphic t-shirts in rotation in his closet at any given time. So, what a better market to jump into than a market where everyone buys the product. And I think that reflects in the growth rate of the direct to garment business. So I have a list of a bunch of them here, but as you can imagine, schools, colleges, churches, daycares, supermarkets, all bars, restaurants, breweries, pet groomers, auto body shops. The list goes on and on here. But if this list could go on for probably 10 slides. But basically, any small business in and around your community, right down to family reunions, local bands, influencers, podcasters, you name it. Another thing I'd like to note here is I'm amazed at the number of companies that reach out to me because they simply cannot find a local printer that offers DTG. Actually, last week, I actually got it confused. I had 2 different customers reach out that were landscape businesses. And I thought the first one was the second one. Long story short, it ended up being 2 different landscape businesses in 2 different states. And the reason that they were reaching out is because they were tired of paying the high prices with minimums at the local print shop, and they couldn't find anything in their community. So they decided to look into this basically just to create their own shirts and start their own businesses. So it's always amazing to me the amount of businesses that reach out to us for information about direct-to-garment printers, mainly because they just cannot find a solution in their community. So it just shows the demand for direct-to-garment printing, throughout the country. I mentioned earlier about finding a niche. So, there are so many businesses and organizations looking for shirts, but when you also focus in on this niche, you begin to eliminate competition. So I always like to say, what are your hobbies? And everyone that's on this webinar, you probably have already kind of gone through this process, this thought process. But what a better way to jump into a business than, using what you already love already, be it, the fitness industry, pet industry, you name it. If you're all, as an example from the previous slide, this prospective customer that had reached out that was in the landscape business. He already knows a whole bunch of businesses in his area through, working and landscaping for them that are also in the same boat looking for garments, which is again another reason that he had reached out. So if you can find a niche, it just narrows the scope and allows you to laser focus on that market segment. If you take a look at this slide here, actually the middle photo is are some linen napkins that I printed for my own wedding way back in 2010. What's incredible about some of this stuff, especially, if we focus just on the wedding industry, as you all probably know, um, the wedding industry is a bit crazy and it's extremely profitable because everyone wants it perfect and they want it exactly how they want it, and cost isn't really an issue. So in this example with those linen napkins that I had printed for my own wedding, these prints were 8 cents a piece. And if anybody, in this webinar can remember back to some of the costs for their own weddings, you can imagine the profit margins. And we've had quite a few customers over the years that focus specifically on the wedding industry. The shirts for the bride and the groom for the week beforehand, and flower girls, and you name it. So just something I wanted to point out there. The next slide here is marketing that works. So, we could have an entire webinar on marketing direct to garment businesses, but we'll save that for a later date. But something that has really been impactful with customers I've worked with over the years is the fact that your direct to garment printer will become part of your marketing team. So what do I mean by this? If you go to your local community, let's say on a Monday morning, you look at the 5 schools in your community. What's amazing is because it's so inexpensive to print a single shirt, you can go ahead and find all those schools' logos on their websites, print off a sample t-shirt, and then when you call and get that meeting to be able to, talk to the person in charge of purchasing and apparel, instead of showing up with an idea, you can actually show up with a shirt and really wow them with the print quality. So really, it's an impactful way to be able to generate t-shirt business, is to be able to bring exactly what you're going to be able to do for them into that meeting. So, you don't have any shirts to print on a given day, check the proverbial yellow pages or your local web pages for all your businesses in your community, and print samples and show up and really show them what you can do versus tell them what you can do. The next piece is master your craft. I always like to talk to new customers about this because a DTG printer, of course, is a tool. It's an amazing tool, but in the end, it's a tool. So when you get started with your direct-to-garment printing business and you get that direct-to-garment printer in your spare bedroom or in your brick and mortar shop, it's really important to lean in and learn all aspects of how the printer operates, because it's just going to make your business more successful. So take advantage. I know with DTG Connection, we offer free training classes, and that never goes away. So we'll work with you, walk you through the entire process, and we'll even, before you're done on the first training session, we'll walk you through and have you print your shirt. So we actually send some t-shirts with the printer. Next, learn a little bit about graphics or partner with a company or an individual that can help. I know I have a lot of customers that I'll speak with and they'll say, oh yeah, my sister or my niece, she went to school for graphics. So it's important to, pull from your circles. If you're not particularly strong in graphics, um, chances are you know somebody or you have someone within your circles that does know it. Again, there's a whole bunch of great companies out there that can help with graphics. You can buy graphic catalogs. Um, if you have graphics, but just are not that familiar with editing graphics, I know I have it here, and I will have it in another slide as well. But myreadyart.com is a great service that can add text, remove backgrounds, you name it. Next is start printing. The more you print, the quicker you learn. At least that's how I learn. I'm a hands-on kind of person. You could give me a book about direct-to-garment printing and I could read it 10 times. But if you just give me the printer and give me some blank t-shirts and let me basically play around with it, many people learn best that way. So when you get that printer, lean into that learning curve and use a great company that can kind of assist you throughout that with great training and support. Many of you in this webinar may already be on some of the great DTG communities online. I know Facebook has a lot of great direct-to-garment printing groups. These are amazing places to go when you're getting started, because chances are, if you have a question, concern, or you run into something you're just not sure about, someone within these communities have already ran into that question. So that's another great place to start here as you're learning the direct-to-garment printers. There are many keys to the success of a direct-to-garment printing business, but one I always like to focus on is selling. So the printer can only print the jobs that you bring it. So start selling. We already talked about using that direct-to-garment printer as a marketing tool. Another thing I always suggest, when that direct-to-garment printer is on the way to your house, tell your friends, tell your family, then turn around and have them tell their friends and families. Chances are everyone within your circle of friends and family either needs t-shirts or they know someone that needs t-shirts. So just get the word out is important. Of course, next, Etsy, Facebook, Instagram, a lot of these social media platforms over the last couple years have been adding a lot of great features with the ability to sell. So I always say definitely use all the free services you can to get the word out there and help grow that business. Another thing I already hit on earlier, but I think is really important is in your local communities, sponsor a local sports team and get your brand in front of potential customers. Fundraising is always a great way to give back to your community while simultaneously getting the word out and getting your brand out there. Like we talked about with using your direct-to-garment printer as a marketing piece, because it's so inexpensive to print t-shirts, print t-shirts, print giveaways, you know, depending on the shirts that you're using, this can be as little as $2, $3, or $4 to print an amazing graphic that, shouts out loud, you know, your business, your phone number, custom garments, no minimum orders. So, get those giveaways out there and speaking on that, I've been going to industry trade shows for the last 15 years. I'll see people wearing t-shirts I gave them 8 years ago. So out of all the marketing pieces that you receive from the pens and buttons and you name it, um, the the promotional product that a person is most likely to keep is a t-shirt. So, leverage that as you're getting started in your business. And then I already talked about picking a category, showing up with a sample. So I won't touch on that any longer. So the next thing we'll jump into here is, depending on everyone listening to the webinar, you already may have learned about the process, but we'll just run through the process of direct-to-garment printing from start to finish. So briefly, we're going to talk about graphics, shirts. There's a shirt prep stage, of course, printing, and then curing that ink after it's printed. So first topic is graphics. I know we touched on this a little bit, but great graphics make great t-shirts, tote bags, sweatshirts. It's really important, if you grab a small thumbnail image off of the internet, stretch it out 7,000% and put it on a t-shirt, it's just not going to look great. So it's really important. You don't have to be, you don't have to have a 4-year degree in graphic design, but you certainly, it would help if you understood a little bit about graphics. And of course, I mentioned myreadyart.com. This is a great company that if you have graphics but need some help, need to add text or need a little bit of graphic design help, that company can help. Like I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of great companies. I listed just a couple here that sell graphics. I know I've noticed more and more customers buying their artwork like on Etsy. Um, so there's a whole bunch of resources out there. If you need a more extensive list, reach out to me after the webinar. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. When it comes to graphic programs, the staple in the graphic industry has always been Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator. Quite a few customers like and use Corel Draw. There are some free services out there. And then I've had customers, running multiple direct-to-garment printers and simply using Microsoft Word to add images and text. So whatever level of sophistication you're looking for, there's some graphic programs out there that can help you achieve that. One more piece on graphics. Being a graphic designer myself a while back, I can tell you there's a lot of graphic designers out there, probably in your community. You can find them on websites like Fiverr.com, where you can have artists basically compete for your business when you're looking to create some graphics. But there's going to be a lot of local graphic designers if you don't know some already. And then one other tip, just because I remember this when I was going to school for graphics, check with your local community college or your local colleges, and try to get in touch with their graphics department and the head of their department there. There's a good chance there's a lot of graphic designers that are really talented that are looking to do contract or freelance work. This can be a great way to, step up your game on the graphics side if you don't have much knowledge in it to begin with. Again, at the if you have any questions about any of this stuff, feel free to reach out to me afterwards. I'd be happy to help. The next piece is t-shirts. So of course, we get some great graphics, we got a great printer. Now we need something to print on. Again, I have an extensive list of blank suppliers. Of course, you could go down to the local Michael's or Walmart and you can buy some Gildan shirts. But it's important when you're getting started that you're going to want to set yourself up with some of the larger blank suppliers. And basically, you'll be able to get pricing that you just can't get in the retail world. So it'll be a lot less expensive than going to like a Walmart or the craft store to buy your blank t-shirts. I have a couple listed here: Sanmar, SNS Activewear, Bella Canvas, RTP Apparel, Spectra USA is a short list of some of the ones I hear about the most, but there's quite a bit more than that. So once we get the t-shirt, we have the graphic. The next thing we want to talk about briefly in the process is shirt preparation. So in direct-to-garment printing, the shirt, specifically when we're printing on darker garments, when we're going to print white ink, there's a pre-treatment process that's necessary. The one way to think about pre-treatment, you could think of it like a primer. It's a primer that allows the white ink to sit on top of the fibers of the garment. That's what allows that white ink to be nice and bright. Now, there are a few solutions on the market to apply that pretreatment. So the first, if you've maxed out the amount of money in your budget that you're looking to spend, you could use just a handheld electric sprayer. Of course, it's important that you're consistent. Um, so again, that's the economical way to go. The next and really the best solution is an automatic pretreatment sprayer. There are a bunch of different brands on the market. We offer many. I know the one I've highlighted here is from a company, Viper, and they make a bunch of great automatic pretreatment machines that will allow you to consistently apply the pretreatment to the shirt. The other solution is there are quite a few companies now that are actually selling the garments that are already pre-treated. The really great part about this is the apparel is, or the fabric is pre-treated prior to the garment being sewn. So when you order shirts from a company like RTP Apparel, which we carry on our website, it's pre-treated everywhere. So you can eliminate the step of pre-treating by just buying the blank shirts. If you have any questions about any of the pre-treatment, let me know, at the end in the questions and answers. I'll be happy to answer them for you. So once we get the garment pre-treated, we get the great graphic printed onto the garment with the direct-to-garment printer. The final step is curing that printed shirt. Most customers are going to use a heat press, probably the most economical energy savings way to cure that ink. The ink just has to hit a certain temperature, which binds the pigments to the garment and allows you to be able to put it in the wash machine. If your business gets bigger and you start to run multiple direct-to-garment printers, typically when you start to get into some high volume direct-to-garment print shops, that's when you'll start looking at conveyor dryers, basically convection conveyor dryers and ovens. But for the most part, heat press is all you really need. So that's just a quick look at the process. Super simple. Like I mentioned, as I was going through the slides, I realized I didn't really talk about actually printing the shirt, and it's probably because it's pretty straightforward and easy. Like I mentioned earlier, you don't need to, there's not a whole lot of graphic prep. You don't have to do color separations. You could take a photograph from your cell phone. You could take a Google image and any digital file, you can print it right onto the shirt. Finally, choosing the right equipment. So you've done a lot of research, but this is a really important step in getting started with your business. The one thing I always like to say is you're not just choosing a printer, you're really choosing a partner. So it's important when you're doing this research to take a look at the company that you're working with and just see what kind of services they actually offer for you. So of course, training and industry experts to be able to help you get started and answer those questions. You also want to look into the technical support. Is it US based support? Is it based overseas? What are their hours? When you have a question, you want a company that's going to be able to answer it for you right away. The other thing is you're going to want to look at, is this a purpose-built direct-to-garment printer? Meaning, was this printer designed, from the ground up for printing on textiles? Because the way the industry started, years back was many of the printers were basically paper printers that were modified, and there was some pitfalls with that philosophy in manufacturing. So is it purpose built, or is it a paper printer that's been modified? Next is, if you're looking at a dealer, what all do they sell? I think this is important when buying anything, not just direct-to-garment printers. There might be a company that sells embroidery equipment, screen printing equipment, camera equipment, and direct-to-garment printers. So you really have to ask yourself, am I getting a printer from someone that is an expert in the field? So a couple things to keep in mind there. Oh, I'll also mention before I get off this slide, here at DTG Connection, we're real excited. If anyone watching this webinar has been in and around the DTG space, we're super excited at DTG Connection to have Deanna on board. She's been in the industry for as long as I have. She knows direct-to-garment printing inside and out, and she's our number one trainer. So I always want to give a shout out to Deanna. So a little plug for DTG Connection, partner with the experts. Here at DTG Connection, we have over 50 years combined experience in the DTG industry. Many of the people on our staff, including myself, have not just talked about direct-to-garment printers, but we've actually owned direct-to-garment printers and have run DTG businesses over the last decade. We have experienced technical support staff. Like I just mentioned, Deanna is a rock star. And so the technical phone support, the training is all free for life when you partner with DTG Connection. Of course, we do ongoing educational webinars like the one we're on today, classes and blogs, and we are dedicated to the direct-to-garment industry. We don't sell we don't sell anything else. We don't sell any screen printing equipment or embroiderers. Our main focus is direct-to-garment printers. So next, I'll just briefly recap the products that we carry. We've carried a number of different brands over the last few years. Currently, we sell the Model X, which is a great printer based off the proven Rico print engine technology. Kind of exciting right now, if you order the Model X, it comes with all three platen sizes. So you'll get the small, medium, and large platen. And then something that our customers really enjoy with the Model X is it has the auto table height feature. So this means when you are printing a t-shirt and decide to jump over and print a sweatshirt or a tote bag, something with a different thickness, most direct-to-garment printers, when you change thickness, you have to manually adjust the table height to allow for that thicker item. With the Model X, you just lay that thicker item onto the platen, hit the print button, and as the table goes into the printer, there's a laser in there that will automatically check that new height and make that adjustment for you on the fly. So increases your production when you're flipping back and forth between different types of garments. Finally, we also offer the Epson F2100, one of the best-selling direct-to-garment printers in the industry. It's a great printer, great brand. They have a couple great features. They have an ink cost calculation tool built into the software, so you don't have to guess how much a shirt will cost to print, which can be helpful in quoting jobs. They have a great warranty, and then of course Epson's proven technology. Finally, we're getting towards the end here. I do want to let everyone know that's in the webinar today. We do have an exclusive promotion for you. So it's two-part. First, anyone who orders a printer package here in October, you'll receive a $500 store coupon to order any additional items, maybe your next couple sets of ink down the road as you get started, extra table like a hat platen. We have a great online store, but you'll get $500 towards anything within our store. Next, if you decide to purchase here in October and you add a Viper pretreatment machine, you're going to get 2 full gallons of pretreatment for free. So that's on any of the Viper pretreatment machines. And again, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to send you some brochures and links about any of the printers we offer or the pretreatment machines. The code is WEB22 as shown right here. But again, if this is something that you're interested in and you want to get started, you need a quote, you could let me know in the comments field, put your email down and say we need a quote and we're ready to go. Or if you need a sample or you have any questions, definitely let us know. So that concludes really the webinar portion for today, but I do want to open it up to questions. Now, I'll have to see if I can figure out how to unmute, or what might actually be easier is if anyone has any questions, if you can just type those questions into the chat field, and I'll go ahead and do my best to answer those questions. And I see there's some people asking right now. I did see a question earlier. Someone had direct messaged me asking about DTF. So really cool. DTF technologies really come around and come into its own here in the last couple years. What's exciting about direct-to-garment printing technology is you can also print DTF transfers. So this is a great application if you want to sell the transfers to companies that would like to apply it to their own apparel. We have a lot of customers that will, use the DTF transfers for maybe a small logo, or a small logo like maybe in the collar of the shirt. You can print a whole bunch of those on a sheet and cut them up and use them individually. Okay, so I got a great question here from someone in the webinar. They're asking if they have to pre-treat light shirts. This is a great question. The only shirt that you absolutely have to pre-treat, and maybe a better way to say it than dark shirts, is when you're using white ink. So typically, when we're printing on darker shirts, we need to lay down that white underbase first, because the color ink is somewhat translucent, meaning if you try to print a yellow on top of a blue shirt, the blue of that shirt is going to want to skew that yellow, maybe give it a green tint. So the way we get around that is by laying down a white underbase. So you definitely need to pre-treat shirts that you're going to put white ink on, but there is also a light garment pre-treat. I know there's a few companies, and we offer it on our web store. I never really pre-treated light colored garments when I'm printing shirts, but what you'll find is if you do pre-treat the light shirts, the dark and the black ink will be a little richer, because instead of just absorbing in to that garment, it's going to sit up on that pre-treated fibers. So the short answer there is no, you don't have to print, or you don't have to pre-treat light shirts, but it's certainly worth testing out if you want to get a look at what the difference in quality is, because there are some customers out there that do. Great question. Next question here is, the cost difference between the standard blank shirts versus the pre-treated shirts. I wish I had that number right in front of me. I can definitely get with you afterwards. You certainly will pay a little bit more for the pre-treated shirts, not by a whole lot. So it really kind of comes down to, the convenience factor. If you don't want to spray the shirts, you don't want to let them dry. Or another reason why those pre-treated shirts are nice. Let's say you have a customer that wants 50 shirts, but he wants graphics in 4 locations on that shirt. That's where those RTP shirts are great, because you eliminate the labor of having to pre-treat all those different locations on a shirt. Great question. Another question, I had a direct message here on warranty and support. So with DTG connection, like I think I mentioned earlier, maybe they didn't hear it, the technical phone support is free for life. So you'll always be able to call us and ask questions. Warranty, most direct-to-garment printers, I think maybe even all, usually comes standard with a 1-year parts and labor warranty with the ability to extend that warranty. And then another great question came through the chat asking about the pre-treated shirts, if they feel stiff at all. So you will definitely be able to feel a shirt that's been pre-treated. I always say it kind of feels like the shirt has starch in it. But the great thing with that is it's water soluble. So as soon as you wash that shirt for the first time, that stiffness goes away. I I know I have some retail customers that will actually include um, a little card in, when they ship their shirts to customers, they'll include a little care instruction card that will explain the DTG process and talk about washing the shirts that first time. Of course, like with any printing process, if your customers turn the shirt inside out, wash it in cold, it'll make it last even longer. But even if you're not doing that, the direct-to-garment printed image will last the life of the garment. So you'll start to get holes in the shirt before that image goes away. Great questions here. So I don't see any additional questions coming through the chat. So I do really appreciate everyone joining us today. If you have any questions, if you have any suggestions, anything you'd like to see in some future webinars, I'd like to, start planning some more. So reach out to me anytime. So once again, thank you. Here's a slide with my contact information, my direct number, my email address, and then of course our website, dtgconnection.com, and our phone number, our main business phone number here, 888-833-4484. Once again, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Talk to you soon.